Before we begin, let the silence settle around you. Not the kind you hear, the kind you feel crawling into the corners of the room. The story I'm about to tell wasn't meant to be spoken out loud. Someone carried it alone for far too long, afraid that saying it would make it real again. If a piece of their truth touches something you've kept buried, you can tell me in the comments. And if these quiet shadows keep pulling you back, you can like the video, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. Now don't move. Some memories wake up when they're listened to. Near a noisy main road where there's always traffic, always voices, always light. I didn't choose that on accident. I used to love quiet places, rooftop cafes, empty side streets, long late-night drives where the city finally shuts up and you can hear your own thoughts. Now silence makes my skin crawl, and it all goes back to one car, one night, one smile that didn't reach his eyes. If you'd met me back then, you'd never guess any of this was in my future. I just moved to Lahore after a brutal breakup. 4-year relationship, engagement ring picked, families involved, the whole thing. Then one day, a few messages on his phone, a girl's name I didn't recognize, and suddenly I was too emotional and too much drama. So I left, packed my life into 2 suitcases, moved into a small apartment with peeling paint and the constant hum of a ceiling fan, and told myself I was starting fresh. You know that fake strength people post about on Instagram? Healing era, self-love journey. All that? That was me, posting stories from cafes, pretending I wasn't crying in the bathroom between orders. My friends kept telling me, download a dating app, just talk to people. No pressure. I resisted for weeks. Then one night, bored and lonely, I did it. Swiped, matched, chatted. The usual. That's how I met him. Let's call him Hassan. Clean-cut, well-dressed in his pictures, smiling in every one, but not the annoying gym selfies or shirtless bathroom pics. Just normal. Office shirts, coffee cups, city views in the background. He wrote in complete sentences. Didn't call me dear or sweetie. After 2 messages like half the men there. He asked about my work, my move, my favorite food. I remember thinking, finally, a normal one. I should have listened to that feeling the first time it flickered in my chest. It was small, easy to ignore, but it was there. His smile, even in the pictures, always felt tight, like his mouth had learned the shape, but his eyes hadn't gotten the memo. I told myself I was overthinking. Trauma from the breakup. Paranoia. That was the first sign something was wrong. I tell myself now, we talked for a week. Voice notes, late-night chats, the whole thing. His voice was soft, controlled. Never too excited, never too emotional. Just steady, smooth, rehearsed, almost. He kept saying things like, "You seem different from other girls on here." I wanted to believe him so badly. The night we met, Lahore was its usual chaotic self. Honking, food stalls, bright shop lights reflecting off dusty windshields. The air smelled like frying oil, exhaust, and humidity. My hands were sweating on my phone as I texted him, "I'm here." We'd agreed to meet near a busy main road, neutral ground. He insisted on picking me up because he didn't want me standing alone in the dark. That sounded sweet at the time. Protective, caring. Now it just sounds like the first move in a plan. I saw his car before I saw him. A white sedan, slightly dusty, idling under a flickering streetlight. Headlights on low beam. The kind of car you don't really notice in traffic. He stepped out and waved. And I swear to you, the first thing I noticed wasn't his clothes, or his height, or his hair. It was the smile. Too wide, too quick. It flashed on like someone had flipped a switch. Perfectly aligned teeth. Lips stretched just enough, but his eyes stayed flat. Dark. Observing. I felt my stomach drop for half a second. Then I told myself I was being dramatic. Again. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. "Hi, Aisha," he said. His voice was exactly the same as on the phone. Calm. Warm. Practiced. We made small talk as we walked to the passenger side. Where I was from originally. How the traffic was insane tonight. How hot it still was even after dark. I could smell his cologne. Something sharp and cold, like metal and mint, and under that, the faint scent of car upholstery and old air freshener. When I sat down, the first thing I noticed inside was how quiet it was. The door shut with a heavy thud. The city sounds muffled instantly. The AC hummed low. Dashboard lights glowed faint blue. There was a rosary hanging from the rearview mirror, swinging slightly, ticking against the glass. He locked the doors with a casual press of his thumb. Beep. Something inside me flinched. We were supposed to go to a nearby cafe. That was the plan. Public place, lots of people, lights, noise, safety. But as he pulled out, he glanced at me and said, almost too casually, "Actually, would you mind if we just drove for a bit first? It's so crowded everywhere. Hard to talk properly." I hesitated, just for a second. That was the moment I could have said, "No, let's just stick to the plan." Instead, I smiled and said, "Sure, if I had known what was coming, I would have opened that door and walked home barefoot." First, it was fine. We stayed on the main roads. Lights, cars, endless motorbikes weaving in and out. He asked me questions about my ex, about why it ended. His questions were a little personal, but I made excuses for him. He's just trying to connect. Then the questions got stranger. "Do you scare easily?" he asked, eyes still on the road. I laughed, because what else do you do? "I mean, I don't love horror movies," I said. "Why?" He smiled, that same too wide, too fast smile. "Just curious. Some people freeze. Some people fight. Some people just shut down." The way he said "shut down" made the hairs on my arms rise. I crossed my arms to hide the goosebumps. The AC felt colder suddenly, blowing directly onto my neck. I could see my reflection in the side window, faint, ghost-like. My eyes looked smaller, uncertain. We turned off the main road. I noticed it a few seconds too late. The shops thinned out. Streetlights grew more spaced apart. The air outside got darker, heavier. The sound of traffic faded behind us until it was just the steady hum of the engine and the distant barking of some stray dog. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "There's a quieter road ahead," he said. "Less traffic. Easier to talk." My throat felt dry. I could smell something damp now. Wet dirt, maybe, or open drains from some side street. The road got rougher, the tires thudding over uneven patches. The rosary clicked against the mirror, faster now. Something inside me screamed. Not words, just pure animal panic. I ignored it. We passed a couple of shuttered workshops, their metal doors pulled down and locked. No lights, no people, just dark shapes against darker walls. Then even those disappeared, and it was just an empty stretch of service road. No shops, no houses, no other cars, just us. "You okay?" he asked, glancing at me. "Yeah," I lied. My voice sounded thin even to me. He smiled again. That smile, the one I see in my sleep. His lips peeled back just a fraction more than they needed to. His cheeks didn't move. His eyes stayed locked on me, a little too long, before he looked back at the road. "This is where people come to disappear," he said softly. He said it like a joke, like a line from a movie he'd been rehearsing. But there was no laughter in his voice, no lightness. The words just hung there in the cold air between us. I felt my heart slam against my ribs. My hands started to shake so badly I had to press them between my knees to hide it. My ears were suddenly full of my own pulse. Every sound in the car amplified, the AC, the engine, the tiny rattle in the glove compartment. "Stop the car," I said. I didn't mean to say it. It just slipped out, raw and shaky. He didn't stop. He slowed just a little, then kept going. "Relax," he said. "You're safe. If I wanted to hurt you, I would have done it already." That sentence broke something inside me. People don't say things like that. Normal people don't say things like that. I realized then how far we'd driven. I couldn't see the glow of the main road anymore. Just patchy yellow streetlights every few meters, casting weak halos on broken concrete and piles of trash. The smell of rot and stagnant water seeped in whenever we passed an open drain. "Actually," I said, forcing my voice to sound casual. My brother's tracking my location. I told him I'd send him your car number 2. But I forgot. 1 second. I pulled out my phone with hands that didn't feel like they belonged to me. My thumb hovered over the screen, pretending to type. The glow lit up my face, and I saw his eyes flick to it in the rearview mirror. The change in him was instant. His jaw tightened. The smile vanished like someone had cut it off with scissors. His eyes snapped forward again. He gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. For a moment, the car felt like a living thing holding its breath. Then he braked. Hard. My body jerked forward against the seatbelt. Gravel crunched under the tires. The rosary swung violently, hitting the windshield with a sharp tap tap tap. He put the car in reverse. No words. No explanation. Just that. We drove back in silence. The air felt thicker, heavier, like it had weight now. I kept my eyes on the glowing buildings in the distance as we got closer, counting each one like a prayer. My fingers were digging into the edge of my seat so hard they ached. When we reached the main road, he pulled up to the side abruptly. "Get out," he said. His voice was flat, emotionless. His face was completely blank now. No smile, no anger, nothing. I fumbled with the seatbelt, my fingers not working properly, and practically fell out of the car. The air outside was hot and sticky, but it felt like freedom. Noise crashed over me. Horns, people shouting, engines revving. I'd never been so grateful for chaos. He waited until I shut the door, then drove off without looking back. The taillights disappeared into traffic like he'd never been there at all. I stood there on the side of the road, shaking so hard I could hear my own teeth clicking. The smell of exhaust and dust burned my nose. My legs felt like they were going to give out. I didn't cry. Not then. I just walked, fast, straight into the nearest crowded shop, where the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead and people brushed past me with bags and baskets and annoyed expressions. Normal life, right next to the place I almost disappeared. I blocked him that night, deleted the app, deleted our chat, but the story didn't delete itself. I called a friend and told her everything. She begged me to go to the police, but what was I going to say? A guy drove me to a quiet road and said something creepy. They'd roll their eyes and tell me to be more careful next time. Maybe they'd ask what I was doing in a stranger's car in the first place. So I swallowed it, packed it down, told myself I was overreacting. I told myself, nothing happened. You're fine. I wasn't. For weeks after, I couldn't sleep with the lights off. Every time a car slowed down outside my building, my chest tightened. I changed my route home 3 times. I started sending my live location to friends when I took a Kareem, even during the day. Then one night, about a month later, I was scrolling through Instagram Reels in bed. The room was dark except for the cold blue light of my screen. My AC hummed softly. Outside, the street was quieter than usual. A sponsored ad popped up. Another dating app. Different color scheme, different logo. I went to swipe past it and froze. There he was. Same face, same angle, same tight smile, different name, different bio. I stared at the screen until my eyes blurred. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. The same car was in the background of one of his pictures. Same rosary hanging from the mirror. I didn't screenshot it. I didn't report it. I wish I had. I just threw my phone across the bed and sat there in the dark, shaking, while the AC blew cold air onto my bare arms. I kept thinking about that line. This is where people come to disappear. Like he'd said it before. Like it was part of his routine. I still don't know how many times he's used that road. How many girls laughed off that first strange question. How many never made it back to the main road. All I know is this. Now, when someone smiles too wide, and their eyes stay dead, something inside me recoils. My skin prickles. My heart starts beating that same terrified rhythm from that car. I don't do late-night drives anymore. I don't sit in strangers' cars. And I never, ever ignore that first small, stupid, dramatic feeling in my gut when something feels wrong. Because that was the only thing that tried to save me. And I almost didn't listen. Sometimes, when the city gets quiet late at night, I swear I can hear a car slowing down outside my building, an engine idling just a little too long, a door lock clicking shut somewhere in the distance. And every time I see that smile in my dreams, too wide, too stiff, never touching the eyes, I wake up with my heart pounding, my throat dry, and this one thought lodged in my head: next time, someone else might not have a brother tracking their location. Someone else might not come back. I live in a cramped apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that always smells like damp walls and old cooking oil. And yes, there's a dining chair wedged under my bedroom door handle every single night. People laugh when I say that, or they try to. I don't blame them. It sounds dramatic, over the top, like something from a movie. But movies end. I'm still in mine. This started last year, when I finally gave in to that stupid combination of loneliness, boredom, and fake confidence that comes at 2 a.m. after scrolling through other people's perfect couples on Instagram. I just finished a double shift at work, my eyes burning from the screen, my back aching. My life was just routine: office, home, microwave food, sleep, repeat. Everyone kept saying, "You're young, Hira. Go out, meet people. It'na be Matt Darrow." So I downloaded the app. We matched on a Wednesday. He was one of those profiles you swipe on without thinking too hard. Decent face, not too filtered. A normal-looking guy in a shirt at some restaurant, smiling like he had friends. His bio said he worked in IT and liked chai, horror movies, and late-night drives with good company. Red flag number 1. I didn't see it then. We chatted about boring things at first. Work, commute, the city being too crowded. He typed properly, used punctuation. No weird pet names, no send pic. Within 5 minutes. Just normal. We're good at pretending. He asked where I lived casually, like it was nothing. "Which side of town are you on?" he wrote. "I'm usually near Gulberg, but I end up everywhere." I dodged it. "Pretty close to my office," I replied. "You?" He sent a laughing emoji. "Smart. Okay. Stranger danger. I get it." I remember feeling relieved. Like, okay, he gets boundaries. Good. I thought that was the end of it. That was the first sign something was wrong. We decided to meet that Friday evening. Small chai spot near my apartment. The kind of place with plastic chairs, metal tables, and fluorescent tube lights buzzing overhead like trapped insects. I picked it because it was close to home, crowded, noisy, safe. I told him I'd be there at 8. I arrived at 7:50. He was already sitting outside. He spotted me immediately. No hesitation, no double take. He raised his hand and waved before I even stepped fully out of the rickshaw. Like he'd been watching every face, waiting for mine. Like he already knew it. My stomach dropped for a split second. Then I told myself I was being weird. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. Up close, he looked exactly like his photos, but sharper. Dark hair pushed back neatly, trimmed beard, pale skin for someone who obviously spent most of his time in front of screens. His smile was easy, practiced. "Hira?" he asked, standing up. "Yeah," I said. The air smelled like frying pakoras, cigarette smoke, and damp dust. Motorbikes roared past on the main road. The plastic chair creaked under me as I sat down. It was too bright there. White light that washed everyone out and made sweat shine on foreheads. We ordered chai. He paid without asking. First, it was fine. Light conversation. He asked about my job, but he already knew a surprising amount. "You work late, right?" he said, blowing on his chai. "Your shifts end around 10 most days?" I frowned. "Sometimes." "Who told you that?" He smiled, not looking up. "You mentioned it, nah?" I hadn't. I know I hadn't. Then it was my area. "So you're near the main road?" he said. "The building with the green gate?" My heart skipped a beat. The cup felt slippery in my fingers. The steam from the chai fogged my glasses slightly, making the edges of his face blur. "I never told you that," I said, trying to sound casual. "Joking. Are you stalking me already?" He laughed, but it was too quick. Too light. Relax, I guessed. Most offices in your field are around there. Lots of buildings with green gates. Common color. He stared at me over the rim of his cup as he took a sip. His eyes didn't match the joke. I felt a weird, cold ripple run through me. The night air wasn't that cold, but suddenly I was aware of every small draft of wind against my arms, every brush of plastic chair legs behind me, every tiny sound, cutlery clinking, a chair scraping, someone coughing behind us, the hum of the freezer in the corner. I should have listened to that feeling. We kept talking. I kept giving him chances in my head. Maybe I had said something accidentally. Maybe it was a coincidence. Maybe I was being paranoid because of all the horror stories I listened to at night. Then he mentioned the gate again. "You live in that corner building, right?" he said, tapping his fingers on the table. "The one with the green gate and the cracked wall? The windows facing the street." My blood went cold. "I never told you that," I repeated, sharper this time. He tilted his head, studying me. His fingers stopped tapping. A small smile tugged at one corner of his mouth. "You walk fast," he said, changing the subject like nothing happened. "You don't look around much." Headphones in. Dangerous habit. My mind started rewinding. Me coming home after work. Tired, earbuds in, music loud, streetlights flickering, the green gate looming up ahead like always. The feeling, sometimes, that someone was behind me. The rustle of footsteps I always blamed on other people. How many nights had he watched me without me knowing? I swallowed. The chai suddenly tasted like metal and sweetness and nausea. "How do you know that?" I asked. He shrugged. "I've seen you. Before we matched. This city's small." He said it so casually, like he was saying, "Oh, we shop at the same store." I laughed on autopilot, the sound thin and wrong. My hand shook so badly the tea rippled in the cup, catching the harsh white light. Every instinct in me was screaming now. Leave. But I hate making scenes. I hate being rude. I hate being the dramatic girl who overreacts. So I sat there. "So your windows face the street, right?" he continued. "Must be annoying. All that noise. You shouldn't have known that. You can't see my windows from the main road. You'd have to stand across from my building. Look up. Watch. Count floors. Notice which windows light up when." My skin crawled. "Excuse me," I said, forcing a smile. "I need the washroom." There was no washroom, just a tiny sink in the corner and a greasy mirror. I stood there anyway, hands gripping the edge of the counter, watching my reflection under the filthy fluorescent tube. My face looked pale, eyes too bright. "You're not safe." The thought came in clear, like someone had whispered it directly into my ear. When I came back, his mood had shifted. Subtle, but there. He was quieter, watching me more than talking. His eyes kept flicking to my phone when it buzzed on the table. "Texting your friends?" he asked. "Yeah." I lied. "I always send my location on first dates." He held my gaze a second too long. The air between us felt heavier. The chair dug into the back of my thighs. I wanted to go home so badly it made my teeth ache. "Good," he said finally. "Safety first." But he didn't sound impressed. He sounded annoyed. We finished our chai. I told him I was tired, that I had work early. He insisted on walking me a little bit towards my street. I refused, laughing it off, saying, "It's fine. It's right there. I know karate." All that stupid nervous chatter. His expression never fully changed, but his eyes did. They went flat in an instant, like someone had turned off a light behind them. "Okay," he said. "Next time then." I didn't say there'd be a next time. I practically ran home, but I tried not to make it obvious. The whole walk back, I kept feeling like someone was matching my pace just out of sight, footsteps syncing up with mine. When I glanced over my shoulder, the street looked empty. Just a stray dog rifling through a torn garbage bag, some man smoking near the corner, neon signage buzzing in the humid air. My building's green gate loomed ahead. The metal was warm under my fingertips from the day's heat. It always squeaked when I pushed it. That night, it sounded louder, like it echoed. Inside, the stairwell smelled like mildew and old cooking. My footsteps on the concrete were too loud. I kept expecting a second pair to join them. I locked my door the second I stepped in. Top lock, bottom lock, chain. I was halfway through changing into my pajamas when I heard it. A soft tap at the door. Not a knock. More like paper sliding against wood. I froze. Silence. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thicker. My skin prickled. Sweat cooled on my neck. I crept to the door and looked through the peephole. Empty hallway. Flickering yellow light. Peeling paint. No one. I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Almost. Then I saw the corner of it. A white edge, just visible under the door. My hand trembled as I unlocked everything again. The locks felt too loud. The chain rattled like it was announcing me. I cracked the door open, heart racing, and looked down. A folded piece of paper. Plain. No envelope. I unfolded it with numb fingers. Next time, invite me in. No name. No number. Just that sentence in neat, careful handwriting. Black ink. Too controlled. My stomach twisted so hard I thought I'd puke right there in the doorway. I looked up and down the hallway again, my breath shuddering out of me in short bursts. No one, but the smell of cigarette smoke was fresh. Not the usual stale kind that clung to the walls. Fresh, sharp, hanging in the air like someone had just exhaled and walked away. I slammed the door, locked everything again. This time, I dragged the dining chair from the corner and jammed it under the handle. My hands were shaking so much the wood scraped loud across the tiles. I barely slept. Every little sound made me flinch. A bike going past outside, pipes knocking in the wall, someone walking on the floor above. My brain kept replaying his voice. You walk fast. You don't look around much. I blocked him the next morning, reported his profile. The app sent one of those generic messages. Thank you, we take safety seriously. Whatever that means. I went to the police that evening. They listened. Kind of. The station smelled like sweat, dust, and old paper. A fan clicked overhead, stirring hot air around. The officer wrote some of it down, asked where the note was, asked if I had proof. It was him. He didn't hurt you, though? He said, pen hovering over the page. No, I said. He just knew things. About my building, my windows, my routine. He left a note on my door. The officer sighed. Madam, there's no crime yet. Just be careful. Don't meet strangers from the internet. These apps are dangerous. I walked home feeling smaller than when I left. Within a week, I moved. Packed everything I owned into cardboard boxes that still smelled like the fruit they once carried. Hired a truck. Went to a different neighborhood. Different landlord. Brown gate this time. Windows facing the courtyard, not the street. I didn't tell him where. I didn't tell anyone from the app anything again. I changed how I walked. No more headphones outside. No more scrolling while crossing the street. I memorized license plates without meaning to. I stopped staying late at work unless someone could walk me out. For a while it was quiet. Then, about 2 months later, I woke up to that sound again. That soft, unmistakable slide of paper under wood. It was 3:17 a.m. My phone screen glared that number in my face when I instinctively grabbed it. The room was dark. The only light, the faint orange glow from the street lamp filtering through thin curtains. My throat was dry. My heart was already racing before I even sat up. The air felt colder than it should have. The fan above me whirred uselessly, just pushing the chill around. I stared at the door. Maybe it was my neighbor. Wrong flat. A mistake. I told myself that. I repeated it like a prayer as I climbed out of bed. Every floor tile feeling colder under my bare feet. The chair was under the handle, same as every night. I inched it aside, my fingers slick with sweat. I listened. Silence. Heavy. Pressing against my eardrums. I opened the door as quietly as I could and looked down. A folded piece of paper. Plain. White. My vision tunneled. My ears filled with a rushing sound, like standing under a shower. I picked it up with numb hands and unfolded it. This one was blank. No words. No name. Just white, which was somehow worse. I stepped into the hallway. Empty. The building smelled different at that hour. Less like food, more like old plaster and dust and something faintly sour. A dog barked in the distance. Somewhere, a bike engine coughed to life then died. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I had the strongest, clearest feeling that someone had been standing there seconds ago, breathing just on the other side of the door, listening to me sleep. Watching. I went back in and locked everything. Pushed the chair harder under the handle until the wood pressed deep into the door. Sat on the floor with my back against it until the sky started to lighten outside. I never showed that blank note to anyone. Over the next few months, it happened again. Not every week. Not predictable. That was the worst part. Sometimes on a random Tuesday, I'd wake up, open my window for air, and there it would be, on the sill, folded, waiting, blank. No one ever saw who put them there. My friends tell me it might be kids, a stupid prank, some neighbor who thinks it's funny. They tell me I'm connecting it to him because my brain wants a villain to blame. Maybe they're right, but I remember the way he said, "Next time." I remember how easily he knew my old gate, my windows, my schedule. I remember the way he waved that first night like he'd recognized me from somewhere I hadn't consented to be seen. And I remember this. I never told him my new address. I never posted it online. Never mentioned the street name in chats. I stopped tagging my location on stories completely. But the notes still found me. Now, when I come home, I always check the sill before I unlock my door. My keys jingle in my shaking hand, and I scan the metal, the wood, the small patch of concrete outside like I'm defusing a bomb. Sometimes there's nothing. Sometimes there's a folded square of white. I wish I could tell you I caught him, that we set up cameras, that there's footage, that the police took it seriously, that someone is in jail right now. There isn't. There's just me, a chair under my door, a collection of blank notes in a shoebox I should have thrown away but can't. And this paranoid, clawing feeling that somewhere out there, someone knows exactly which window my light is behind when I'm up too late. Someone's watching the way my curtains move. Someone's counting how many times I check the peephole before I sleep. So if you ever match with someone who already knows things you never told them, don't laugh it off. Don't stay to be polite. Don't give them the benefit of the doubt because you're scared of being called dramatic. That's the mistake I made. And I'm still paying for it every night, every time I hear the soft sound of paper against wood, and hold my breath to see if this one finally has words on it again. In a small apartment above a tire shop where the street never fully goes quiet, I used to think noise was annoying. Now I sleep better when I can hear people outside. Engines, voices, life. Silence feels dangerous to me. People romanticize meeting in a bookstore. Cute, right? All soft lighting, shared interests, that fake indie movie vibe. Whenever I see those posts now, I scroll past fast. Because that's how I met him. If you only saw that part, you'd think it was a love story. I was standing in the psychology section, holding a book on attachment styles I was never actually going to finish. It smelled like dust and old paper and air conditioning. The bookstore was quiet except for the soft click of the cashier's keyboard and the low hum of a ceiling fan that wobbled every few seconds. He was on my left, flipping through some crime novel. Average height, plain shirt, jeans. Soft-spoken, shy. The kind of guy you'd forget 5 minutes after seeing him. Except I didn't. He glanced at the book in my hand and smiled. "That one's good," he said. His voice was low, careful, like he'd rehearsed speaking softly. I laughed. "You've read it." "Bits of it," he said. "Enough to know it'll make you overthink your last 3 relationships." It was such a normal line. Harmless. I remember the lighting on his face. Yellowish from the overhead bulbs, casting soft shadows under his eyes. He looked gentle. Not handsome in a movie way, just familiar. Safe. I should have listened to that tiny hesitation inside me. The one that said, "He's too comfortable talking to you for a stranger." That was the first sign something was wrong. We talked for 10 minutes between the shelves. He asked what I did, what I was reading, whether I came there often. I told him I was an editor for a local magazine, that I came to that shop when I was stressed. He nodded like he already knew. At the counter, we ended up paying at the same time. The cashier scanned his book, then mine. When I rummaged for my card, my tote bag slipped, and my phone fell out onto the counter with my lock screen lit. My name, a half-visible notification, the time. He picked it up for me. His fingers brushed mine, just for a second. Cold, dry. "Sorry," he said. "I'm a deal, by the way." "Sarah," I replied. We exchanged Instagram handles. Not numbers, which felt safer in my stupid, clueless head. If I had known what was coming, I always think, I would have just left it at that. A stranger in a bookstore. We chatted for a week, mostly DMs. He sent pictures of books he thought I'd like, memes about overthinking, voice notes late at night where he sounded tired, edges of traffic noise around him. He seemed shy, awkward, a little self-deprecating, harmless. We agreed to meet at a small cafe near my office. Neutral, public, bright. I told myself I was being responsible. The cafe smelled like coffee beans and warm bread and old wood. Fairy lights were strung across the ceiling, flickering slightly like they were about to give up. A fan in the corner clicked every rotation, the sound syncing with the clatter of cups and low chatter. I got there 5 minutes early. He was already there. He was sitting at a table near the back, facing the entrance. When I walked in, his eyes found me instantly, like he'd been watching the door, replaying my face from every angle he'd seen online. He raised his hand slowly, almost like he'd been doing this in his head already. "Hey," he said, standing up. His shirt smelled faintly of detergent and something sharper. Cheap cologne with that metallic edge. The table between us was small, the wood polished but sticky from too many wiped spills. We made small talk. Work, traffic. How he didn't usually do this. He stumbled over his words just enough to seem endearing. He kept looking at my hands when I spoke. Not my eyes. My hands. "Sorry if I was weird," he said at one point, smiling. "I've seen you in that bookstore before, actually. Thought you'd think I was a stalker if I said that on day one." Somewhere deep in my chest, something twisted. "Really?" I asked. "I don't remember seeing you." His smile flickered. "Yeah, you always go straight to the back shelves," he said. "Psychology, true crime. You stand on your right foot more than your left. You keep your phone in your tote pocket, screen facing in." He shouldn't have known all of that. I laughed, but it came out thin. "You notice a lot." He shrugged. "I'm observant." I told myself it was a compliment, that he was just detail-oriented, that I was overreacting. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. We'd just gotten our drinks. Mine too sweet, his black coffee smelling like burnt bitterness. When it happened, I remember the sound first. The scrape of a chair being dragged across the floor. Too fast, too harsh. Heads turned. The air seemed to shift direction. A woman walked straight toward our table. She wasn't dressed like someone trying to cause a scene. Simple camise, hair tied back in a messy bun, dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept properly in days. Her hands were shaking. I noticed that before I noticed her face. Her eyes went from him to me. There was something raw there. Not jealousy, not pettiness. Panic. "Sarah?" she asked. My name sounded wrong in her mouth, like it hurt to say. I froze. "Yeah." Her voice trembled, but she spoke clearly. Every word trapped the air in my lungs. "Don't go anywhere with him," she said. "Please." The cafe went quiet around us in that weird, heavy way, where everyone's pretending not to listen but every ear is tuned in. The whir of the coffee machine in the background, the clink of a spoon against ceramic, the hum of the fridge, all suddenly loud. Under the table, his hand closed around mine, hard. His fingers dug into my skin, and a jolt of pain shot up my arm. His nails weren't long, but I felt the pressure like claws. "She's crazy," he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. "My ex. She does this. Likes to ruin things for me." Her eyes flicked down to our hands under the table, then back up to my face. There was this horrible, desperate look there, like she was watching someone step onto train tracks in slow motion. "He's not what he seems," she said. Enough," he snapped. It was the first time I heard his voice like that. Sharp, cold, no stutter, no softness, like a mask had slipped off for a second. A couple at the next table glanced over, eyebrows raised. The waiter paused near the counter, pretending to wipe a tray. The ex took a step closer. I could smell her shampoo. Cheap, floral, slightly sour with sweat. Her hands trembled harder now. "She thinks I hurt her," he said, squeezing my hand even tighter. "She can't accept it's over." Her gaze locked with mine. Not his, mine. "You don't know what he's like when you're alone with him," she said quietly. "Just don't let him drive you anywhere. Please." Something inside me started screaming. Not words, just that raw animal terror. The same feeling you get when you almost step into traffic and a car you didn't see blasts past. I should have stood up right then. I should have walked out. I should have trusted a woman with shaking hands over a man with a calm smile. I didn't. I was embarrassed. People were staring. I didn't want to be part of someone else's drama. I didn't want to look paranoid, or rude, or gullible. "I'm fine," I said softly. My voice sounded like it was coming from somewhere outside my body. The ex stared at me for one long, hollow second. Then her face changed, like she watched something inside me shut down. "Okay," she whispered. She turned and walked out. Her sandals made soft slaps against the floor. The bell over the cafe door jingled weakly as it closed behind her. He leaned in closer, too close. "She likes ruining things for me," he said. "But she can't ruin you." The way he said you made my skin crawl, like I was an object. A thing he'd decided wasn't going to slip away. His hand still hadn't let go of mine. My fingers were going numb from how tightly he was gripping. "I think I should go," I said. His jaw tightened for half a second. I caught it. A tiny twitch, a flash of something ugly in his eyes. "I'll drop you," he said. "You're on Shari Faisal's side, right? Near the flyover." I hadn't told him that. My throat went dry. My heart started thudding hard enough that I could feel the pulse in my ears. "No, it's okay. I'll book a ride," I said. "I insist," he replied. His voice dropped lower, each word heavier. "You shouldn't be going alone at this time. At least let me walk you to your car." "I don't have a car." He stared at me. The air felt thicker. The cafe suddenly felt too warm, the lights too bright, reflecting off the silver napkin holder on the table. I could smell coffee, sweat, and something else now. Some faint, sour breath from a man at the next table. The sugar syrup spilled somewhere, the metallic tang of panic on my own tongue. People were definitely watching now. "Leave it," someone murmured from another table. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. The sound made me flinch. His hand slipped from mine, fingers trailing against my palm, leaving behind a clammy imprint. "I have to go," I said. "My brother's already outside." "I don't have a brother." He smiled, that slow, controlled smile that never reached his eyes. "Of course," he said. "Next time, then." "There won't be a next time," I replied before I could stop myself. His eyes hardened for a microsecond, like glass catching light. Then he laughed softly. "We'll see." I walked out without looking back. The bell over the door jingled behind me. The outside air hit me hot and thick, full of exhaust and frying oil from a dhaba down the road. I could feel his gaze on my back all the way to the corner. I didn't turn around. I just kept moving, my steps too fast, my fingers already digging for my phone like a lifeline. That night, around midnight, my phone buzzed. A message request on Instagram. It was from her, the ex. Her profile picture was a blurry selfie, eyes half cut off, hair in the same messy bun. I opened it. "You escaped," the message said. "Don't ever respond to him again." My hands started shaking. I typed, "What did he do to you?" The little typing bubble appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again, then nothing. No reply. Not that night. Not ever. I blocked him, deleted our chat, reported him. I told a friend, half laughing, half crying. She took it seriously. She told me I did the right thing by walking out. She told me not to minimize it. The problem is, the internet doesn't really let you delete people. He stopped existing on my main account after I blocked him. But he didn't disappear. Every few weeks, I'd post a story. My coffee, my laptop, a meme, my face at some angle I hated 5 seconds later. And the same thing would happen. A new viewer, no profile picture, or some random landscape, 0 posts, following 10 people, following me, click the name, no mutuals, no information, just a blank page with a username that felt off, like something generated, but the letters arranged in a way that felt deliberate. I'd block it. A week later, another one. Sometimes the username would be a variation on my name. Sometimes it would be some inside joke he'd made that day at the cafe. Once, it was my surname spelled backwards. I changed my account to private, removed followers I didn't know, went through my posts and deleted anything that showed my building, my street, my office. The ghost accounts kept coming. My friends tell me it could be anyone. Bots, randoms, trolls. Maybe they're right. Maybe I've tied those empty profiles to him because my brain doesn't know where else to put that fear. But I remember the way his ex looked at me, like she was watching a replay, like she'd sat in that same chair once, with his hand clamped over hers under the table, listening to him call someone else crazy. And I remember the way he said, "We'll see." So now, when I'm locking my door at night, when the hallway smells like old paint and someone's dinner, when the fan above my bed clicks in the dark and my phone lights up my face in that cold bluish glow, I always check. I swipe up on my story, see who watched, most names I know, and then there's always that one. No picture, no posts, no information, just a blank, staring profile watching me through my own screen. Maybe it's him, maybe it's not, but every time I see it, I hear her voice in my head, trembling in that cafe, shaking hands and raw eyes. "Don't go anywhere with him, please." I didn't listen to her properly that day. I listen now. My name is Noor. I'm 24. I live in a small apartment on the second floor of a building that was old long before I moved in. People always say I'm lucky because my room has a big window that looks out over the street. I don't feel lucky. I can't sleep near windows anymore. Not after him. From my bed, even now, I can see the outline of that frame in the dark. The thin curtain, the edge of the glass, the faint glow of the streetlight bleeding in orange at the corners. I've pushed my bed as far away from it as I can. But it doesn't matter. You can move the bed. You can't move what your brain remembers. Back then, before all of this, my life was boring. Normal boring. I worked in a call center, took late shifts, came home smelling like other people's perfume and frustration, microwaved dinner, watched something stupid on my phone until my eyes burned, and fell asleep to the sound of motorbikes and dogs barking in the alley. I liked my window then. I liked watching the street from above. Kids playing cricket with broken bats. Old men smoking, their breath mixing with exhaust. Shop shutters rolling down at night with that loud metallic crash. It made me feel like I was part of the city without actually being in it. I was lonely, but it was the kind of loneliness you can live with. Then my coworker convinced me to start dating again. "Just go for a coffee," she said. "Public place. Afternoon. Safe. Safe." That word feels like a joke now. We matched on one of those apps that's all bright colors and empty promises. His name was Samir on there. His pictures made him look harmless. Slightly messy hair, crooked smile, eyes that crinkled a little at the corners. In one photo, he was holding a cat. That almost made me trust him more than anything else. We chatted a bit. He wrote full sentences, made stupid puns, asked about my job, and didn't immediately complain about his. He seemed talkative, a little overeager, but after talking to angry customers all day, that felt nice. We agreed on coffee, neutral ground, busy street, daytime. The cafe was one of those new places trying to look old. Fake exposed brick, mismatched chairs, Edison bulbs hanging low and flickering softly. It smelled like roasted coffee and vanilla syrup and something faintly burnt from the kitchen. I got there at 4:10. He was already at a corner table, half-finished iced coffee sweating onto a coaster. He waved, a little too excited, like he'd been waiting a long time. That was the first sign something was wrong. He stood up when I reached the table. His shirt smelled like cheap cologne, sharp, almost metallic, cutting through the warm sweetness of the cafe. His handshake lingered for a second longer than I liked. His eyes moved quickly over my face, then down, then back up. A scan, not a glance. Finally, he said, "I was starting to think you'd ghosted me." He laughed. I smiled politely. The wooden chair felt slightly sticky under my hands when I pulled it out. The surface was smooth, but still carried the faint residue of spilled drinks and too many elbows. We started talking. Or, more accurately, he started talking. He talked too much. About school, about old jobs, about fights he'd had with friends, about exes that went crazy, about how people never appreciate loyalty anymore. His mouth barely stopped moving. His ice melted, turning his drink into a cloudy brown mess he never drank from. Every time I tried to talk, he would interrupt, circling it back to himself. If I had known what was coming, I would have walked out then. I would have pretended I got an emergency call, anything. But I told myself it was first date nerves, that he was just overcompensating, that I should be patient. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. The first strange thing he did was say my building's name. Not the area, not the general side of town, the actual name. We were talking about commute times. I mentioned I lived near the market, in that vague way you do with someone you just met. "Oh yeah," he said casually, stirring melting ice with his straw. "Near Al Huda Heights, right? Those old yellow buildings with the noisy balcony fans." My heart dropped into my stomach so fast I felt dizzy. I stared at him. "How do you know that?" I asked. He shrugged, still looking at his drink. "You posted a story once." I recognized the gait. "Relax, I'm not a stalker," he added quickly. "I just noticed details." He smiled when he said it. His teeth were too white, too even. It didn't reach his eyes. Something inside me tugged hard then. That quiet instinct, that heaviness in the chest that whispers, "This is off. This isn't normal." Pushed it away. We finished our drinks. I checked my phone and pretended to be more stressed about the time than I was. "I should go," I said. "I have an early shift tomorrow." "I'll walk you home," he replied instantly. "No, it's okay," I said. "It's close." "I insist," he said that fast. His smile didn't change, but his eyes did. Just a flash of something, like annoyance crossing behind them. "You shouldn't walk alone." "I always walk alone," I said. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, that cologne hitting me again. "Yeah," he said softly. "I know." A small chill crawled up the back of my neck. "I'll be fine," I repeated, standing. The chair legs scraped loudly against the floor, the sound grating. I could feel other people's eyes flick in our direction. The cafe felt warmer suddenly, the air heavier. He stood up too. "At least let me walk behind you," he joked. "Make sure no one creepy follows you." That line, it hits different now. I laughed, because that's what you do when you're uncomfortable and don't want things to escalate. "I'll be fine," I said again, putting money down even though he protested. "Thanks for the coffee. I'll text you." I knew I wouldn't. Outside, the late afternoon air smelled like dust, exhaust, and frying samosas from a stall down the street. The sun was low, turning everything gold and making long shadows stretch across the pavement. I started walking. The street was busy but not crowded. Buses grumbled past, motorbikes weaving between them, horns puncturing the air. The heat clung to my skin in a sticky layer. I could feel him behind me, not close enough to say we were walking together, not far enough to pretend it was a coincidence. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself he was just going the same way. I told myself stopping and confronting him would be dramatic, so I kept walking, past the pharmacy with peeling blue paint, past the shuttered-up shop with posters half-torn on its metal front, past the alley that always smelled like stale water and rot. Our shadows stretched in front of us, mine sharp and clear, his always slightly overlapping. At one point, I slowed down to look at a display in a shop window. He slowed down too. I could see his reflection in the glass, just behind my shoulder, face blank, eyes on me instead of the items. My chest tightened. My fingers tingled. I sped up, turned a corner. Another, took a longer route on purpose. He followed, always at that same distance. Never beside me, never gone. By the time I reached my building, my upper lip was damp with sweat, but my hands felt oddly cold. The second-floor balcony fan above the gate squeaked in that familiar rhythm. The paint on the gate was chipped, showing rust underneath. It smelled like hot metal when I pushed it. It squealed louder than usual. I didn't look back. I could feel him watching me as I climbed the stairs. The concrete was cool under my sandals. Someone had left a plastic bucket outside their door, the faint smell of detergent and mildew clinging to it. My own door felt flimsy when I shut it, like hollow wood pretending to be solid. I locked it, bolts sliding, chain clinking. I told myself it was over. It wasn't. That night, the air felt heavier than usual in my room. The fan whirred above, pushing warm air around, making the thin curtain over the window flutter in small, tired movements. The streetlight outside cast a soft orange glow that bled in around the edges, making the shadows on my walls look softer, almost blurry. I lay in bed scrolling my phone, the screen lighting my face with that cold blue light. My eyes burned. My thumb kept automatically drifting to the chat with him, hovering over the block button. I didn't press it. Some stupid part of me thought, don't be childish. He was just awkward. Around 2 a.m., my phone slipped from my hand onto my chest. I was half asleep, that hazy place where sounds feel distant and thoughts loop weirdly. The fan clicked in its steady rhythm. A dog barked twice outside, then went quiet. A bike passed, the engine fading into a low hum, then disappearing. And then the room changed. It's hard to explain. The temperature didn't drop dramatically. The lights didn't flicker. There were no horror movie signs, just a weight, like the air got thicker, like something pushed its attention into the room. You know when you're being watched, even if you don't want to admit it. There's a very specific type of stillness your body recognizes. My eyes snapped open. The ceiling looked the same, cracked paint, the rotating shadow of the fan stretching and collapsing with every turn. My mouth was dry. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat. I don't know why I looked at the window. I wish I hadn't. My curtain had shifted, just slightly, like a hand had brushed it from the outside. The streetlight glow was stronger there, spilling more into the room than it should have. My brain tried to tell me it was just wind. Then I saw it. A face, pressed against the glass. Not a shadow, not a trick of light. A face, his face, cheek flattened slightly against the pane. Nose squashed just enough to distort it. His eyes were wide, too wide, whites visible all around the dark center. His teeth were bared in something that wasn't quite a smile, wasn't quite a snarl. His breath fogged the lower corner of the glass in small, rapid bursts. Tiny patches of condensation bloomed and vanished, bloomed and vanished. For a second, my brain refused to accept what I was seeing. I live on the second floor. Second floor. There's no balcony, no ledge, just a sheer wall ending in the narrow pipe that runs up from the ground for drainage. Couldn't scream. My throat locked. My lungs forgot how to pull air in. Every muscle in my body went rigid, like if I stayed absolutely still, maybe he wouldn't see me, even though he was looking straight at me. His eyes didn't move around the room. They were fixed on me, like he'd been staring for a while. My skin crawled. A wave of goosebumps rushed over my arms, my legs, even my scalp. My hands trembled, fingers digging into the bedsheet so hard my nails scraped the fabric. I don't know how long we stayed like that. Me in bed, frozen. Him outside, stuck to the glass like some horrible insect. Then, too fast to fully see, he jerked his head to one side. The curtain swung, breaking my line of sight. The window was empty. No face, no shadow, just the streetlight, the dark, and my own reflection faintly overlaying it. That's when the scream finally tore out of me. It ripped my throat raw, the sound too loud in the cramped room. I stumbled out of bed, knocking my phone to the floor, clattered against the tiles, the screen lighting up with some random app. I ran to the door, My feet slapped against the cold floor. My hands slipped on the lock twice before I got it open. I ran into the hallway, heart hammering, lungs burning, yelling for my landlord, my neighbors, anyone. Doors opened. Faces peeked out, sleepy and annoyed, then alarmed when they saw my tears, heard my voice shake as I tried to explain. There was someone at my window, I kept saying. Second floor, he was looking. He was right there. We went outside. The stairwell smelled like wet dust and old paint. The metal gate creaked loudly as my landlord unlocked it, grumbling under his breath. We stepped into the street. It was quiet, too quiet. No passing bikes now. No people. Just the hum of a distant transformer and the faint rustle of some plastic bag trapped under a parked car. We all looked up. There, on the wall directly under my window, were marks. Clear as anything even in the orange streetlight. Dark smears along the plaster. Scuffed patches. Scratches on the paint where someone had dug in for grip. The vertical water pipe that ran up the wall had fresh scratches along its length. Bits of what looked like dirt or skin or something caught in the small metal brackets. Drag marks. The landlord swore softly under his breath. My neighbor's kid started crying. Someone told him to go back inside. We called the police. They came half an hour later, their car lights washing the whole street in harsh white and blue. The officers smelled like sweat, cigarettes, and cheap aftershave. They shone their torches up the wall, checked the ground for footprints that the uneven pavement didn't really hold. One of them found something near the base of the pipe. A smear of something dark on the concrete. Not big enough to be dramatic. Just a thin streak, like someone had scraped their hand and wiped it there. He bent down. Could be rust, he said. It didn't look like rust. They took my statement. Asked me if I was sure it was him. Asked if I had any enemies. An ex-boyfriend. Anyone who might want to scare me. He was on a date with me today, I said. He followed me home. I didn't tell him my flat number. He shouldn't know which window is mine. They exchanged a look. We'll file it, one of them said. Be careful. Don't open the door at night. They never found him. His account disappeared the next day. Deleted, like he'd never existed. No mutuals. No full name. Just a set of pictures and a fake first name I can't trust anymore. For a while, I slept in the living room. No window there. Just 4 walls and a door I could push something heavy against. My neck ached from the bad angle on the sofa, but at least I couldn't see the glass. Then the other sounds started. Soft taps. Too gentle to be wind. Too irregular to be branches. Sometimes at 1 a.m., sometimes at 4. Just little sounds on the pane. Like the tip of a finger. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tap. Once, I woke up with my heart racing for no reason and went to the bedroom, just to check. The curtain was still. The street looked normal. But there, at the very bottom corner of the glass, was a smudge. Oval. The size of a fingertip. As if someone had pressed slowly and dragged downward maybe half an inch. Cleaned it. Came back. Different places. Always faint. Always low on the glass, like someone was testing how far they could reach now. You can tell me it's condensation. Or kids throwing things. Or dirt. I've heard all the logical explanations. Logic doesn't help when it's 2 a.m. and you're lying in the dark. Every nerve on fire. Feeling that same heavy awareness settle over you like a blanket soaked in ice water. Someone's at the window. Even when I don't look, I feel it. That pressure. That horrible sense that if I turn my head, if I let my eyes adjust, I'll see a shape there. A face. His face. I keep the curtains drawn now, day and night. I tape the edges down so they don't move as much when the fan's on. I pushed my wardrobe in front of half the window, like that could somehow block his line of sight. I moved once. It didn't help. Different building. Different pipes. Still second floor. Still street lights. Still glass. I know what you're thinking. Maybe it was just that one night. Maybe your mind is filling in the rest. Maybe you're right. But here's what I can't shake. The look on his face when I told him no. When I said I wouldn't let him walk me home. That flash of something hard and hungry in his eyes, buried under a smile. and the marks on the wall that weren't there before. So if you live above ground level and you think you're safe, if you tell yourself, no one can reach up here, and you don't bother to lock your window because it's too much effort, just remember this. I used to think that too. Until the night I woke up and saw a man's face pressed against my second-floor window, breath fogging the glass, eyes locked on mine like he'd climbed all that way just to see how I looked when I was sleeping. Now, even with the curtains closed and the wardrobe blocking half the frame, I still feel it. A presence near the glass. Watching. Waiting. I only sit with my back against a wall when I'm in a restaurant. I need to see the exits. I need to see who's between me and the door. It sounds paranoid until you've had a chair used like a cage. It was supposed to be a normal Thursday night. Nothing special. I'd finished work late, my head buzzing from spreadsheets and fake smiles. I remember the office air conditioning was too cold that day, and my hands still felt dry from the recycled air when I was getting ready at home. Just another first date from another app. Just another let's see. Nothing about that day felt like a warning. That's what scares me the most. He looked fine on his profile. Not model handsome, not creepy. Average. A couple of pictures with friends, one with a coffee, one on a rooftop. He wrote that he liked late-night food, dark humor, and deep conversations. I rolled my eyes, but I was bored. His name was Hamza, or at least that's what he said. We chatted a bit. He replied fast. Too fast sometimes, but I told myself that just meant he was interested. After a week of talking, he suggested dinner. Somewhere public, don't worry, he'd said, adding a laughing emoji. You can run if I'm weird. I should have listened to how rehearsed that sounded. We chose a mid-range family restaurant. Bright lighting, laminated menus, waiters in cheap vests and worn-out shoes. The kind of place where the tiles always feel slightly sticky under your sandals and it smells like frying oil, dish soap, and too much air freshener. Safe, or so I thought. I got there 10 minutes early, because I'm that person. The fluorescent lights inside hummed overhead, washing everything in harsh white. Kids shouted near the play area. Someone's baby was crying. Plates clattered in the kitchen. It was loud, messy, alive. He was already there, sitting at a corner table, facing the entrance. His phone on the table, screen down, back straight, hands folded neatly. He looked up the second I walked in. Not a second later. Not with that small, oh, there you are delay. Like he'd been watching the door constantly. That was the first sign something was wrong. He smiled and stood up to greet me. His shirt smelled faintly of cigarette smoke and some sharp, cheap cologne trying to cover it. His handshake lingered a little too long, his fingers slightly cold against my palm. You're exactly like your pictures, he said, like he was evaluating a product that had arrived as advertised. You too, I lied. We sat. The chair felt wobbly under me, the vinyl seat still warm from someone else's body. The table had sticky spots, and the laminated menu had that faint greasy film you can't see but can feel. First, it was fine. Just fine. He talked about his job, his friends, how everyone is fake these days. He laughed a lot, too loudly for the setting, like he wanted people to look over. He asked about my work, my hobbies, the usual. Then something shifted. His questions started to feel sharper, less curious, more probing. So, who do you live with? He asked, looking straight at me over the rim of his glass. The fluorescent lights above cast a pale reflection in the water, making his eyes look a little too bright. My sister, I said, and a roommate. Older or younger? He asked. Younger. He nodded slowly, like he was storing it away. Parents in the city? Not really, I said, already feeling stupid for answering. They're in Faisalabad. So no one just drops in on you randomly? He said. He smiled when he said it, but his eyes didn't change. They stayed exactly the same, flat, watching, calculating. A small chill crawled up my spine. I told myself it was just his way of making conversation. I told myself I was being dramatic. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. He leaned forward, elbows on the table, fingers interlaced. The overhead light made his skin look slightly gray, emphasizing the shadows under his eyes. "Do you scare easily?" he asked. I laughed awkwardly. "What do you mean?" "Like, are you jumpy?" he said. "If someone popped out behind you, would you scream?" He tilted his head slightly. "Do you scream loudly when you're scared?" My brain stuttered. The restaurant noise faded for a second. The clinking cutlery, the kids yelling, the kitchen doors swinging. They all became background static. I could hear my heartbeat louder than the rest. "That's a weird question," I said, trying to keep my tone light. He smiled again. His teeth looked unnaturally white in that harsh light, almost glowing. "I'm just curious," he said. "Some people freeze. Some people make a scene. You don't seem like the make a scene type." My mouth went dry. I should have left then. Instead, I smiled. Forced. Tight. "I don't know," I said. "Let's not test it." He laughed. But there was something in his eyes now, like a door had closed behind them. The food came. Greasy plates, sizzling sounds, the smell of spice and oil hitting my nose. I picked at my food more than I ate it. My stomach felt knotted. He kept asking questions. "What time do you usually get home from work? Does your sister stay out late? Do you lock your bedroom door?" I started lying. "I have a big family nearby," I said. "My uncle lives in the same building. He's a retired army guy, very protective." I added a small laugh to make it sound like a joke. His jaw tightened for half a second. It was subtle, but I saw it. If I had known what was coming, I think now, I would have gotten up under the excuse of using the bathroom and walked straight out the front door. But I stayed. Eventually, I checked my phone. It was later than I thought. I exhaled and put my fork down. "I should get going," I said. "I have an early morning." The change in him was instant. My heart started pounding so hard I felt it in my fingertips. The overhead lights suddenly felt too bright, too hot, baking my skin. I became aware of how narrow the space between tables really was. How his body, his chair, his legs were blocking that small gap. "I need to go," I said, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. "Move your chair, please." He leaned in closer. I could smell the smoke on his breath under the mint. "Don't make a scene," he murmured. "You don't seem like that type." My hands started to shake. The waiter must have noticed something, because he appeared at the side of our table, dish towel over his arm, trying to look casual. "Everything okay, madam?" he asked, his eyes flicking between our faces. Hamza's head snapped toward him. The smile on his face evaporated so completely it was like it had never been there. His mouth pressed into a thin line. "We're leaving," he hissed. "Bring the bill." In that moment, his hand shot out under the table and grabbed my wrist. His fingers dug into that soft spot between the bone and the tendons, sharp pain radiating up my arm. I flinched. I didn't scream. I wish I had. The waiter's eyes dropped to my hand, to the way his fingers wrapped around it, to the whiteness of my knuckles as I tried to twist away. "Sir, please let go of her hand," the waiter said quietly. Hamza didn't even look at him. His eyes stayed on mine, dark and unblinking. "You're making people think I'm dangerous," he said softly, smiling again now. That same thin, fake smile. "You don't want to do that, do you?" My throat closed. My chest hurt. The restaurant felt smaller, the tables closer, the sound of other people's conversations blending into one meaningless roar. "I need the washroom," I whispered. He squeezed harder. "No," he said, still smiling. "You need to sit." The waiter didn't back off. "Madam," he said, a little louder now. "If you want to leave, you can go from the back door. I'll show you." Hamza finally turned his head to glare at him. "Mind your own business," he snapped. That was the moment everything went chaotic. The manager came over, eyebrows furrowed. Another waiter stood behind him, arms crossed. A family at the next table had stopped eating, their eyes on us. I heard someone mutter, "What's going on?" under their breath. "I want to leave," I said. The words burst out of me, shaky but loud enough. Hamza's grip on my wrist tightened so much I swore I felt something pop. His nails dug in. "Sit down," he growled. The sound low, not for anyone else, just for me. It didn't match his smiling face. It didn't match the bright, normal restaurant. "Sir, let go of her now," the manager said, voice firm, "or we will call the police." He held my gaze for one long second, and I saw it. Something ugly, something furious, something like, "You're embarrassing me." Then he let go. So suddenly my hand flew back and hit the table, rattling the plates. My skin burned where he'd grabbed me, the shape of his fingers already blooming in red marks. "We're done," I said, standing so fast my chair nearly toppled. He half rose as if to block me again, but the other waiter stepped in his way, shoulder solid, body between us. "Madam, this way," he said, gesturing toward the back. I didn't wait. I moved, past the kitchen door with its swinging hinges, where the smell of oil and spices and gas burners hit me like a wall. Past stacked crates, wet floors, shouting cooks. My shoes slipped once on a damp patch. I caught myself on a shelf, fingers brushing against cold metal and something sticky. The back exit door was heavy. The handle felt greasy, cool under my shaking palm. The air outside was a different world. Night air, cooler, full of exhaust and the distant honk of traffic. "Go," the waiter said. "There's a rickshaw stand at the corner." I turned to thank him, but behind him, through the half-open door, I saw Hamza pushing against the staff, his face twisted, eyes wild in a way I hadn't seen at the table. I didn't stay. I ran into the street, my legs moving before my brain fully caught up. My heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to crack them open. The world smelled like gasoline, dust, and something metallic from my own fear drying in my throat. I didn't look back until I was in a rickshaw, breathless, telling the driver, "Bah, just go jaldi jaldi." My phone buzzed halfway home. One new message. "You ruined a perfect night. I'll see you again." I stared at the words until the screen blurred. His profile picture, his smiling face, the one that had sat under those fluorescent lights, glowed at the top of the chat. I blocked him. I changed my number the next day. I wished that was the end. For a while, nothing happened. I started to breathe again. I told myself I'd overreacted. I told myself, "You're safe now. It was just a bad date." Then, weeks later, I was out at another restaurant. With friends this time. Different part of the city. Different lighting, warm instead of harsh, soft yellow bulbs instead of flickering tubes. I was laughing at something stupid when I felt it. That feeling. Being watched. It crawled up the back of my neck, settled between my shoulder blades like a weight. The room felt a bit tighter. The sound of plates and laughter faded to a dull hum. I looked up. Across the restaurant, near the entrance, there was a man standing half in shadow, just out of the main light. Not so clear I could swear it was him. Not so far I could say it wasn't. He was looking in our direction. Not smiling, just watching. A waiter walked past him. When my view cleared again, he was gone. I tell myself it was someone else. I tell myself I saw what I was afraid to see. But even now, when I push my chair against the wall and count the exits, when I feel the plastic menu under my fingers and smell the fried food and detergent, I hear his voice in my head. "You don't seem like the make a scene type." I am now. If someone makes me uncomfortable, I leave. If they block my way, I push past. If a waiter asks if I'm okay, I say, "No," even if my voice shakes. Learn from me. The scariest things don't always happen in empty streets or dark alleys. Sometimes they happen under bright fluorescent lights, in crowded restaurants, with a man who smiles too easily and thinks your fear is just part of his perfect night. Whenever I drive at night, I keep the rearview mirror tilted just slightly away from my face. Not because of the glare, because of the eyes I still feel in it. I wasn't always like this. I used to love night drives. Empty roads, soft music, windows cracked just enough to let cool air in. Streetlights passing overhead like a slow heartbeat. It used to calm me down after long days at the office, when my brain felt overcooked from emails and deadlines. Now, the moment the sun goes down, my hands get clammy on the steering wheel. And it all started with one harmless coffee date and a car that wouldn't stop following me. We met at a cafe in F7. You know, the type, fake rustic decor, Edison bulbs, way too many plants inside. It smelled like coffee beans, sugar syrup, and damp wood from the wall panels that were more aesthetic than functional. The AC hummed low, and there was that faint clatter of cups and spoons, conversations overlapping in soft, pleasant noise. He looked normal. That's the part that still messes with me. Just normal. His name was Ian. Average height, decent clothes, hair a little messy in a styled way. Clean shaven. No visible tattoos or anything threatening. He smiled when I walked in, too quickly, like he'd been waiting for my face to appear through the glass door. That was the first sign something was wrong. We'd matched on an app a week before. Exchanged the usual. Work. Favorite shows. Wow, this city is small. All of that. He replied fast, but not in a way that felt too intense. At least, that's what I told myself. The date itself was fine. Just fine. Not amazing. Not terrible. He talked a bit more than I did, but he wasn't loud. He made a few jokes that didn't quite land. His eyes felt a little too focused on my face, like he was scanning it, memorizing angles. But no red flags big enough to grab onto. Just little ones I kept folding and stuffing into my pocket. We talked about work, about traffic, about how dangerous the city was for girls alone. That was a theme he kept circling back to. You shouldn't drive alone at night, he said at one point, fingers tapping the side of his cup. The ceramic made a small, repetitive clicking sound. It's not safe. People disappear. I shrugged. I'm careful, I said, and I don't live that far. He tilted his head. G11 side, right? My stomach tightened. I hadn't told him that. Not exactly. I think I mentioned it. I lied, stirring my coffee so I wouldn't have to look at him directly. He smiled. Yeah, maybe. His eyes said, I know exactly what you said and what you didn't. If I had known what was coming, I would have stopped listening to his words and started listening to my gut right then. When the bill came, he paid. I thanked him, checked my phone. It was getting late, and the light outside had shifted from golden to that flat blue-black of early night. I should get going, I said, standing up and smoothing my shirt with hands that suddenly felt too warm. I'll escort you safely to your car, he said immediately. No pause. It's the least I can do. Something in his tone bothered me. Not the words, the certainty. Like my car's location was a fact already filed away in his head. It's fine, I said. The parking's closed. I'll be okay. He leaned back in his chair, but his eyes didn't leave mine. The overhead light reflected in them, twin white squares in dark irises. I insist, he said. A girl walking alone to the parking lot at night? Not a good idea. I forced a small smile. I park right across the street. I'll be fine. A tiny muscle in his jaw twitched. Just once. His fingers stopped tapping the cup. Sure, he said finally. Text me when you get home then, so I know you're safe. He said it lightly, but there was something underneath. Not care. Ownership. I will. I lied. We walked out together because I didn't know how to not make it awkward. The cafe door creaked when we pushed it. The outside air hitting my face warmer, heavier, carrying the smell of dust and car exhaust. Streetlights glowed orange, blurring slightly in the dusty air. The parking area was across the road, dimly lit, a few cars scattered like sleeping animals. He stood on the sidewalk and watched as I crossed. I could feel his gaze between my shoulder blades, a physical pressure. My car key felt small and sharp between my fingers, the metal biting into my palm as I held it like some kind of pathetic weapon. I got into my car, locked the doors immediately. The familiar smell of fabric freshener and old AC hit me, grounding me for a second. I started the engine. The vibration came up through the seat, humming in my spine. He lifted a hand in a slow wave from the sidewalk. I gave a stiff little wave back, then pulled out. As soon as I turned the corner, I exhaled. Hard. My shoulders dropped a little. The main road was busier, which weirdly made me feel safer. More lights, more movement, more witnesses. Streetlights passed overhead in steady intervals, casting moving shadows on my dashboard. My favorite playlist played quietly, the singer's voice soft over the hum of the engine and the occasional whoosh of another car passing. I told myself, see, it's fine. It was just an awkward date. You're overthinking. About 5 minutes into the drive, I checked my rearview mirror. Headlights. Normal. There are always headlights. White beams at a comfortable distance. Not too close. Not glaring. Just there. I changed lanes. So did the car. Okay. It happens. I kept going. Took another turn. The car turned too. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. My palms were getting damp now, the leather feeling slick under my grip. The music suddenly felt too loud, so I turned it down. The engine noise filled the silence, mixing with the faint rattle from something loose in the glove compartment. I tried to be rational. It's a main route. People take the same turns all the time. Coincidence? I took an earlier turn off my usual path. A quieter street, flanked by closed shops with metal shutters pulled down, graffiti sprayed across them. A stray dog nosed through a pile of trash, plastic crinkling under its paws. The street smelled like stale water and decomposing food. The headlights followed. Same distance, same speed. Not closer, not farther. My stomach clenched. A cold, nauseous wave rolled through me, completely at odds with the warm, slightly stuffy air inside the car. I could feel the AC blowing against my face, but my skin felt clammy, like I'd walked into a fridge wearing wet clothes. I turned again. A sharper turn this time, onto a road that curved around toward a busier area. The kind of turn someone wouldn't accidentally take if they were just going the same way. The car made the turn too. My breathing went shallow. I kept swallowing, but my mouth stayed dry, my tongue feeling like paper. Don't panic, I told myself. Don't be dramatic. If you overreact, you'll look crazy. That voice has gotten me into more danger than anything else in my life. At the next intersection, I made a split-second decision. Instead of heading toward home, I veered into a brightly lit gas station. The fluorescent lights buzzed loudly overhead, washing the concrete in stark white. The smell of petrol, diesel, and hot rubber hit me through the vents immediately. Cars were lined up at the pumps, attendants in faded uniforms moving lazily between them. A small shop at the side glowed with harsh lighting, shelves packed with snacks and dusty bottles. I pulled up near the air and water station and put the car in park, my hands shaking now. In my mirror, I saw it. The same car, slowing down as it approached the station. Indicators off. No attempt to pull in. It rolled to a crawl, then stopped, just outside the station. Not leaving, not passing by, just waiting. The headlights stayed fixed on the entrance, cutting twin beams through the mix of white station light and the darker street beyond. I pretended to search for something in my bag. My fingers fumbled over the zipper, leather soft under my slippery hands. I grabbed my phone like it was a lifeline, stepped out of the car, and forced my legs to move toward the little shop. The night air felt different there. The constant hiss of the pumps, the occasional beep of the register, the low murmur of attendants talking in Urdu. It should have felt normal. Instead, everything sounded distant and muffled, like I was underwater. I walked slowly, like I wasn't rushing, like I wasn't seconds away from bolting. A security guard leaned against a pole near the shop, his rifle slung lazily over his shoulder, eyes half-lidded with boredom. I considered going up to him, saying something. Instead, I stopped near the door and pretended to make a phone call. I lifted the phone to my ear, my hand trembling so badly I had to hold it with the other. The glass door reflected my face back at me. Too pale, eyes too wide, mouth pressed into a thin line. "Yeah, I'm at the pump," I said into the dead line, loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. 5 minutes. You're almost here? Okay, good. I see your car. I turned slightly, pretending to scan the road. The car was still there, engine idling, headlights on, just far enough that I couldn't make out the plate clearly, just close enough that I could tell whoever was inside was facing me, watching. I could feel the weight of that gaze even with the glare of the beams between us. The hairs on my arms stood up. A faint shiver ran across my shoulders despite the cloying warmth of petrol fumes and heat radiating off concrete. I forced a laugh into the phone. Yeah, I know you're always late," I said to no one. "Hurry up." For a second, just one, I thought I saw the silhouette of a head move in the car. Leaning slightly forward, the engine revved. Then, suddenly, without indicating, the car swung out and sped away. Fast. Too fast for the narrow road. Its taillights became two red smears for a moment, then disappeared around the bend. By the time I turned my phone screen on, it was gone. Too late to catch the number. Too late for proof. I stood there, breathing hard, the smell of fuel burning my nose. My heart hammered against my ribs. A relentless, panicked thud. The security guard glanced over at me briefly, then looked away, uninterested. Inside the shop, the cashier yawned, counting change. The world went back to normal. I got back into my car on legs that didn't feel like they belonged to me. The steering wheel vibrated under my fingers when I started the engine. That same familiar hum that used to comfort me. I took a different route home. A longer one. More lights, more people, more everything. My eyes kept darting to the mirrors every 5 seconds. Every pair of headlights made my throat tighten. When I finally parked outside my building, my back ached from how rigidly I'd been sitting. My fingers had left damp prints on the leather. I sat there for a minute in the dark, engine off, listening to the ticking sound of the cooling metal under the hood and the distant echo of some dog barking. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. My chest clenched so hard it hurt. I unlocked the screen with numb thumbs. "Next time, don't run. It ruins the mood." My vision blurred around the edges for a second. The text sat there in the little gray bubble, almost casual. No emoji. No name. I deleted it, as if that would erase the feeling of someone's eyes in my rearview mirror. The sense that I'd been prey in a game I didn't know I was playing. The next day, I changed my number. I told a friend part of the story. Not all of it. I left out the message, the car lingering at the station, the way my heart had stopped when the headlights wouldn't go away. "I think someone was following me," I said. "You were smart to pull into a busy place," she said. "See? You're fine." I nodded. I told myself I was fine. I wasn't. I never drove that route again. I avoid that cafe area at night. I check my back seat before I get in the car now, even in daylight. I don't listen to music loud anymore. I need to hear the road, the engines, the tires behind me. And still, there are nights when I'm driving home from work, and I see it. Headlights in the mirror. Same distance. Same speed. Every turn I make, they make. Most of the time, it's nothing. A stranger going the same way. Coincidence. But every time, my hands start to shake. My breath shortens. My mind goes back to that message I can't unread, even if I erased it from my phone. "Next time, don't run. It ruins the mood." The worst part? I don't know if there will be a next time. I don't know if that car was him. I don't know if he remembers my number plate, my face, the way my hands trembled when I pretended to be on the phone. All I know is that somewhere out there, someone thinks following a woman home and watching her panic is a mood. So if you ever notice headlights behind you that feel too constant, too obedient, too attentive, don't do what I did at first. Don't tell yourself you're being dramatic. Don't wait for proof. Get somewhere bright, somewhere crowded, somewhere with witnesses and cameras and people who will remember your face if you don't make it home. Because sometimes, the scariest monsters don't need masks or knives. Just a car, a road, and the knowledge of exactly when you're most alone.